Mr. Naruhodo, what on earth were you playing at just now? Or rather, what on earth were you playing at all along? My hypothesis, my amazing hypothesis, you've been picking holes in it from the start.
Sorry about that.
But you promised me. You said you'd prove that the drafted explosion was an accident, not a murder. You said you'd keep my precious invention from falling into anyone else's hands. But all you've done so far is try to undermine.
Yes, I did make you a promise, you're right. I said I'd believe in you and fight for your freedom to the very end, but I also told you I was no scientist. I don't understand your hypothesis. The fact is, there's an undeniable flaw in your logic, isn't there?
But if I just run through some equations, yes, you see, it's because,
I'm sorry, I didn't actually read that last word.
You see, it's because my work is incomplete.
Perhaps it is. Nevertheless, a man died as a consequence, didn't he?
Oh, no. You're right. You're so right. It's all my fault. And I have no right to blame you for my failures. I'm a disaster, not just as a scientist, but as a human being.
Well, that might be a little over the top.
And while we're on the subject, what about Barrack? He's being awful.
Claiming this old university friend to be a murderer, you mean?
He's a disaster, not just as a prosecutor, but as a human being.
Y'all are so rude. Like, my man's doing his job, you know.
But no, wait, he's the Reaper, isn't he? Perhaps he's not classified.
Jesus Christ, guys. Glad that's cleared up.
Can I double check something with you?
Oh no, that was not him.
Yes, what?
The machine and demonstration you prepared, they were based entirely on your hypothesis, I presume? There was no trickery involved?
I drew the plan for the machine with my very own hands. Every line was painstakingly drawn with the firm belief that science is the only future. So yes, it's true my hypothesis hasn't reached maturity yet, but please, Mr. Naruhodo, you must believe in it.
Alright, Professor, I understand.
Counsel, defendant. Prosecution's witnesses are ready. Make your way to the courtroom.
It all hinges on that demonstration. If the professor's hypothesis is as sound as he claims, it leaves him as the only person who could have possibly killed the victim. Not really, but we already know it's not true. But on the other hand, Sholmes was adamant. A practical implementation, such as was attempted by the professor at the Great Exhibition, is quite impossible. So really, what should I be trying to prove?
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, blah blah blah. Counsels, are you ready?
The prosecution is ready, my lord. As is the defense, my lord.
So, Lord Von Zykes, I believe these next witnesses saw the demonstration with their own eyes.
Indeed they did. As luck would have it, one of them is a police detective. So the testimony we are about to hear can be considered highly reliable. I have heard this before. Perfect, a detective of all people. The prosecution's stance remains unchanged. Though it ended in tragedy, the demonstration on the day in question was scientifically sound. And consequently, the sole person with the opportunity to have committed this act of murder is the only other individual to have been present on the stage at the time, the accused.
Thank you, counsel. The prosecution's position is clear. Bring forth your witnesses now.
Bailiff, show the witnesses in. The witnesses whose proximity to the incident on the day in question will clarify the truth unequivocally. Oh, God. Oh, you were one of them, of course. Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court to hear. What does my man sound like? I don't know. Something will come to me. My name is Balthazar Loon. I am the Imperioso of the hot air balloons in the vicinity of the Esperimento stage. My name is Wilhelm Gottfried Sigmundsson Ornstein. I have come to see the great exhibition all the way from my home in Bohemia. I'm sorry for the terrible accents. I'm very rich. Jeez. Inspector Genus Lestrade, Scotland Yard. I'm a great detective. Even Sherlock Holmes agrees. I was on security duty at the exhibition and I got up in one of them hot air balloons. It was amazing. Gina, again. But she did mention that she seen the disaster from in a balloon, actually, didn't she? Oh, just heard Skype. 1 second. Not important. There were 3 balloons flying near the public experimentation stage when the incident occurred. 2 of these witnesses were in one such balloon at the time and saw the events unfold from the skies above. You make it sound like they were in the clouds. It was only an altitude of circa 60 feet, very low. Well, you can't see nothing if you fly too high, can you? 60 feet, about 18 meters then. That doesn't really mean anything to me. I'm terrible at, like, picturing a distance in my head. Thank you for your introductions. Now you will give your formal testimony. Kindly describe what you witnessed is, especially those of you who had a vantage point above the stage. What happened to your head, by the way? And why are you wearing this mask? It was an incident terrible. It was an incidente terrible. I am only grateful that my balloons were not damaged. There was this huge bang from the stage, and then the next second, another bang in the sky beside us. And from amidst the smoke, a cage appeared out of nowhere. The cage, it fell from the sky like a stone and crashed into the Crystal Tower. I didn't get a good look inside the cage, but no one went near it after it crashed into the tower. A most extraordinary collective account. Could I just clarify something? There's a detail in the witness's testimony that I've not heard any mention of until now. Specifically, that there were 2 explosions. More precisely, 2 explosions in 2 separate places, yes. When the demonstration began, the balloon carrying the 2 witnesses was around here. There were other balloons in the air nearby at the time, carrying other passengers as well, to be clear. Then, as power was supplied to the machine for the demonstration, the first explosion occurred. The so-called bird cage that contained the victim disappeared from the stage, and a moment later, the second explosion occurred, directly adjacent to the balloon carrying the witnesses. The birdcage appeared at the site of the explosion, subsequently to plummet down into the Crystal Tower. I was very surprised. Suddenly, a cage appeared before my eyes with a person inside. The blast was so hot, but I didn't want to miss a thing, so I kept my eyes wide. Oh, he's actually got fire in there. I still have lots of money. What a little asshole. Precisely who is this curious infant? I'm told he is a young noble of Bohemian royalty. Apparently, he disguised himself in order to steal unnoticed into the Great Exhibition. This is your disguise? Ja, I am here in London on a sightseeing trip with my elementary school. We will have the benefit of a child's point of view in the testimony. Do we really need that? When I remove my mask, this is what I look like. Ah, yes, I see. A delightful face, I'm sure. Ja, everybody says so. Great disguise, then. The point is, the testimony of these witnesses further substantiates the facts for the court. Namely, that despite ending in an explosion, instantaneous kinesis was successfully demonstrated. And furthermore, that until the arrival of the police, no one approached the crystal tower where the victim fell. Therefore, only the accused who was with Mr. Asman on the stage could have possibly committed the murder.
Yes, thank you, counsel. The prosecution's views on the matter are quite clear. The defense's cross-examination now, please.
Yes, my lord. Oh, how do we do this one? So we're still trying to prove that the experiment didn't happen right now, but what do we go for exactly to do that? I guess we'll just start at the beginning.
Hold it!
There were 3 balloons flying above the experimentation stage at the time, I understand.
See, all 3 of them, my Belsimi Bambini. They are very popular, senor. Some people will pay £10 for one ride. £10? That's more than my annual stipend. £20 a month, that is my pocket money.
Royals have all the luck.
I got up there for free, I did. Played the old I work for Her Majesty's police card, you know.
Detectives have all the luck. If they're so popular, why would you only be operating such a small numbers, though?
Because if I have too many in disguise, they could crash into each other.
The operators for the balloons were decided by lots, with each operator manning a particular area.
See, and the zones above public experimentation stage is the most profitable. The other Imperiosos, they hate me. Yes, thank you, witness. I think the court have a clear picture. Perhaps we could hear more of the witness's incident. Hold it!
Huge bang. So you actually saw the incident happen from the air?
Yep. Isn't it amazing what a detective gets to do, eh? Oh, I'm telling you, Oda, being a lawyer's a mug's game. You should join the force and we can go flying together.
You know me so well. Yes, well, anyway, could you tell us exactly what you saw?
Everything. We saw everything, because we were up above it all. That dodgy cove climbing into the cage and that dodgy professor pulling all them levers. And that's when it happened. That's when there was this massive bang and the cage had disappeared, just like that. You are describing the moment the suspect's body was decomposed by the electricity. I didn't know what to make of it. But then there was another bang, right in the ear. I looked around and there was a huge fireball right next to us in the sky.
You have something to say about this?
Master Gods,
does your memory of the day differ?
My teacher at elementary school said that when you meet someone for the first time, you should always use their full name.
Yes, what was it again?
Wilhelm Gottfried Sigmund Ormstein.
Just the 4 names, then? The point is, do you have something to say? Something to add in response to Detective Gina Lestrade's last remark?
Oi, get right to it, Oda. Get it right, Odo. It's Inspector Lestrade.
Why does everyone have a problem with how I address them?
That is not what I saw.
Oh?
Yeah, there was a second explosion and it was right beside our balloon. That is true. But I'm sure, which is what I said in it, 1 minute there was nothing, then a massive explosion. My teacher at elementary school said that when someone else is speaking, if you are rude enough to interrupt, you will have the most awful life imaginable.
Are all Bohemians brought up to be so full of joy?
Just before the second explosion happened next to our balloon, I clearly witnessed a green balloon flying in the sky.
Ah, a green balloon?
You what? I never saw nothing like that. Well, I did. I saw it, and you can't say I didn't. I will complain to the council. I will cry and scream. My testimony is the truth. I am a Bohemian prince. You cannot say it is a lie. That is not allowed. Playing the bleeding royal card, are you? Typical.
Says the orphan who likes to remind she's Her Majesty's police.
In that case, young man, I must ask you to amend your testimony in the interests of cordial relations between Great Britain and Bohemia. It was not the sky that exploded. It was a green balloon that was next to ours at the time.
A green balloon, you say? Are you sure about that?
Of course I am. I am a proud Bohemian prince. All these questions are making me boring.
I think you mean bored.
Ach! English is very annoying. The language of my countrymen is far superior. Ragazzo, it is very wrong to lie. Lie? Flying balloons never explode. For the same reason the planets never explode. It's logical.
Please tell me that doesn't mean logical.
If you insult me, you insult all of Bohemia. My day,
I don't know. I don't know any language other than English.
I will have the army come and shoot all of you stupid balloons out of the sky. All of them.
There you go. If only all international incidents were so easily resolved. Now that the peaceful relations have been restored here in the courtroom, perhaps we could return to the testimony. Did you also see the moment the cage materialized?
No, I did not see the explosion myself. However...
Well, it seems like we should just point something out right on this, doesn't it? Since this is what we dug out. But what do we point out here exactly? Right? Like, if we had to find this, that's usually where you point... Oh, piece of green cloth. Ah. Well, we probably don't point it out here, do we? Because, you know, what does that really do for us right there, other than corroborate what he just said?
Hold it!
Did you see that actually happen?
No. In reality, I did not. I saw it after it hit the tower. There was a grand confusion around the stage. I ran to see what happened. I was terrorized by the idea that one of my balloons had crashed.
I suppose they are his livelihood.
But when I looked up to the sky, all my precious balloons were still there. I saw it, though. I saw it slam into the tower. After all, I'm a detective now.
Then tell us what you saw, Inspector.
That's what I like to hear. Didn't get a look inside the cage, but no one went near it.
Was it you who gave the order to keep people away?
Use your head, Odo. How could it have been me? I was up in the balloon, weren't I?
Right.
So, of course I wasn't available. It was the boss who had to leg it over there. He was getting shoved and kicked all over the panicking spectators as he tried to seal off the scene. It was a real sight to behold, I can tell you. Amazing.
Poor Inspector Gregson.
So anyway, I couldn't see the cage because that was because of all the smoke. Well, I didn't really want to see, to be honest. I was scared out of my wits.
Keep it together, Inspector. The prosecution really is asserting the demonstration was genuine, but what if it was actually some kind of switch-around trick instead? That would mean the victim was never on the stage in the first place. The two explosions could have thrown everyone else into panic. I think I need to find out more about what exactly people saw. Right. No, back here. So, this is clearly the important statement. What do we present exactly here? I can't really think of anything except for this piece of green cloth. But that's not really... that doesn't contradict anything. Oh, fuck.
Objection!
Yeah, I didn't really think that would go anywhere, but I was just like, to be honest, I'm not sure what I present to this. You know. Oh, do we present this and point out that it would have been right here, exactly where it was shown previously?
Objection!
No, okay. Like, I'm having that situation again, where, like, what I want to point out is that the exploding cage was where the second, like, the cage was where this explosion was, which was another balloon, which then fell out of the sky. But how do I present that exactly to them? Like, how do I say to the game, I think the cage came from this balloon? Do I present the green cloth here to contradict grateful my balloons were not damaged? Like, oh look, we know this came from a balloon or something.
Objection!
Oh, that's exactly it. Alright. So it wasn't presenting it on that, it was just needing to know that, so I knew to present it here. I see. You said that all 3 of your balloons you had operating at the time were undamaged. See, that is correct. If they had been caught in the explosions, it would have been terrible. I wonder if you might know what this is? Ah, I think it may be... See, part of a balloon. A burnt piece of fabric of the envelope. Sorry, the envelope? Pardon. That is the large, round part of the balloon which becomes filled with hot air. It is made from a very thick fabric lined with rubber. You do not want it to rip when you are in the sky. Just as I thought. Damn, I was really sold on this being part of a waxwork. This piece of cloth was found near the experimentation stage. Another, as Mr. Gotts testified. A green balloon did explode that day. Eh? If all the balloons in the sky above the experimentation stage belong to you, Mr. Loon, then your statement that they were all undamaged clearly contradicts the evidence. No! If a balloon exploded that day, why didn't the man say so? Maybe everyone on board was killed. Oh no, have I spent £10 all for that experience? How awful. Seems to me like those crash 50% of the time these days. The instantaneous kinesis did occur, but after the explosion on the stage. Of the point of materialization shifted to a location occupied by a balloon. Causing the balloon to explode? Yes, eminently plausible. An unfortunate traffic accident, as it were, but it changes nothing about the pertinent facts. This I cannot accept. Why not, Mr. Loon? You are suggesting that I am a liar! That person's died in a balloon incident! There's no need to get fired up, Mr. Loon. The victim was the sole fatality that day. That's right, and I prove it! Balthazar Loon is not a liar. There was no such balloon in the sky. It is not possible. You're saying that it's impossible. Why? This court has more important matters to discuss than the number of balloons that were operating that day. But we can't ignore the fact that nobody appears to have known anything about this other balloon. My lord, the defense calls for further testimony from Mr. Loon. I concur. There is clearly more to the truth here than meets the eye. It's imperative that we clear up the issues of the phantom balloon. Witnesses, you will give supplementary testimony about the balloons. Ah, grazie, my lord. I know, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. As I said, Balthazar Loon is no liar. Every balloon I had in the sky landed safely. All 3 of my balloons were carrying passengers. If they fell to the ground in explosion, what a catastrophe. But you can't get away from the fact that a burnt-up bit of cloth was found at the scene, can you? The coppers at the yard reckoned it was probably some debris thrown from the explosion on the stage. This stupid ragazzo is mistaken. My balloons have the red and blue zigzag stripes anyway. So your assertion is that the balloon this child saw was not belonging to you. Si, exactamente. If he even saw a balloon in the first place. I do not like the sound of it. It is very bad for business. I have a good mind to sue the land of Bohemia. If you attack us, we will fight back. It will be war, all out war. what happened to all-out war? Mr. Loon certainly doesn't appear to be lying, but that doesn't change the fact that the testimony and evidence are contradictory. If the defense is unable to find fault with the witness's statements, the court must consider them the truth. Think long and hard on that, my learned friend. The situation has clearly changed now. I have to get to the bottom of what happened here. Counsel, cross-examine, go. Alright. Well, let's go. You couldn't just have forgotten one, maybe? Signor, I might not notice if I was given 100 lentils and one was missing. But we are talking about 3 enormous balloons. Do you believe I could make a mistake about something so grand and expensive? I took the liberty of having Inspector Gregson check this gentleman's warehouse. I have the report here. It clearly says a total of 3 balloons. It would appear no mistake has been made then. Surely Mr. Lestrade could have been sent for such a menial task. What? Me? I'll tell you what I told the boss. East End kids like me can only count up to 2. Obviously that ain't true, but the boss bought it and said he'd have to go himself in that case. All 3 were carrying passengers. There would be quite a catastrophe if they fell to the ground for any reason, I think. On that note, Mr. Lone, tell me, what is it that keeps these balloons in the sky? Are you an idiot? Sorry. That is like asking, why does a candle burn bright? It burns bright because it burns bright, and a balloon flies because it flies. What else? Right. Yep. Amazing point. That must be Italian for I don't know. There are 2 types of flying balloons, hot air balloons and gas balloons. Hot air balloons work on the principle of hot air being less dense than cold air, whereas gas balloons derive their lift by using a gas that is lighter than air. See, and my balloons are filled with the magic gas, I believe. Hydrogen, lighter than air, but highly explosive. Good lord! I do not permit smoking of cigarettes in any of my balloons. The magic gas does not like fire. Even a small spark of static electricity could cause the entire balloon to explode. What is the matter with you, senor? All that comes out of your mouth is explosion, explosion. I tell you my balloons are perfectly safe. They have to be, or I cannot eat. None of my balloons exploded that day, I am completely sure. But if you still say that is what happened, you must show me the proof. Alright, Mr. Loon had 3 balloons in the air. If none of them were damaged, then what was the one that exploded? Can't get away with the fact a bit of burnt up cloth was found. I was surprised to find the piece of fabric. Didn't you search the area surrounding the stage for clues? Nah, I'm not into picking stuff off the ground, me. Always works out way better diving into people's pockets. So much for the new career path. Mind you, boss was running his hands and knees picking up all kinds of rubbish from the floor. Thing is though, the cage went crashing into the Crystal Tower, didn't it? That's where most of the investigating was going on. Even so, I could have thought someone from Scotland Yard would have gathered it up as evidence. Cool, listen to you. You stumble across a bit of balloon and suddenly you're the best investigator in the world. Pardon? Well, you ain't got a badge like this, have you? I could arrest you with this if I wanted to. I wouldn't put it past her. Come to think of it, there was talk of some scorching on the ground in a meeting we had with the investigation. The coppers at the yard reckoned it was probably some debris thrown from the explosion. There was considerable damage to the stage and surrounding area, wasn't there? Yeah, some of the coves what were watching the experiment were caught in the blast and injured. Good job the old contraption didn't keel over, I hadn't even considered that. It seems there was a great panic after the incident occurred. Nevertheless, the police shouldn't have missed a torn-up piece of envelope from a balloon. Inspector Gregson can expect repercussions. Like me swiping his fish and chips, eh? The man's sole pleasure. None of this matters. The scrap of balloon envelope means nothing. This stupid ragazzo is mistaken. Hold it! You mean the color is wrong?
Si, senor. I do not have any green balloons in my warehouse.
And yet a piece of green balloon cloth was found at the scene, and it's unmistakably from a balloon.
Well, I do not know how that can be.
For the sake of argument, let's say that a green balloon did explode above the stage. You couldn't therefore conclude that it happened on the day in question. Why not? There have been recreational balloon flights over Hyde Park operating from before the Great Exhibition. One could have exploded on some earlier date. Unfortunate, as I'm sure you'd agree.
This seems as if it should be extremely easy to prove one way or another. You believe to me it may have been from an earlier balloon accident? Si, exactamente, as the senor says. It is not from one of my balloons. Hello.
Excuse me.
Is something wrong, Master Gotts?
It's Master Wilhelm Gottfried Sigmundsson Ormstein.
It was on the tip of my tongue.
Ja, something is very wrong. I know what I saw. There was a green balloon there. I swear it all over Bohemia. You can speak as much bad language as you like, but it changes nothing. If you do not have evidence, then I must tell your parents to punish you, eh?
Perhaps we'll let the judge decide when it comes to punishments.
Evidence? What is this evidence?
To give an example, a photograph, for instance, some tangible proof of what you claim.
Well, why didn't you say so sooner? I have the photograph here.
Good gracious, what?
I had not been up in a balloon for a little while, so I was very excited. I took lots and lots of photographs of the Crystal Tower, of the Bohemian exhibit, of the streets of London, of the hot ale cellar, of the balloon.
And the instantaneous kinesis experiment, did you take a picture of that?
Yeah, one picture.
Really? You did take one? This is amazing.
But all I wanted was a ride in the balloon. I was not interested.
Never mind that. Can you show us that photograph?
Of course, and then you will see. You will see I am not lying, that I really did see a green balloon.
Well.
Well, I see you are all too shocked to speak.
Yes, I think shocked is the word.
Yeah, perhaps you cannot see that the balloon it was a green balloon from the photograph, but that is not my fault. That this is the fault of the stupid person who has the camera. Wah, wah.
That was a very Bohemian. It raises the sound, but I don't know what that turns into for an A. Very well, the court will accept the photograph. I'm pretty sure I saw like a streak on it as well. Yeah, right here, something getting shot up. So, maybe the dude didn't get shot with the crossbow. Maybe the crossbow was just for popping the balloon, huh? Also, this guy looking pretty rigid. That guy's looking pretty rigid in there. Anything else obviously stand out? What's this? No, probably nothing. Can't see anything else. Obviously the shooter's behind smoke, so we can't see him. Nothing else looks unusual. Well, never mind. I'm sure you had plenty of wonderful sepia memories to take home. In any case, when exactly did you take the photograph?
Well, it was on the day of the big explosion.
You don't say.
When I pressed the shutter release, there was this very loud bang, and a hot wind rushed over my face.
That means this photograph was taken a split second before the explosion.
Well, if you ask me, this black and white photograph changes nothing. I could not give the flying fig.
Lovely language. As I thought, Loon's testimony doesn't quite add up. Inconsistent, yeah. I mean, obviously we slam that down, don't we? Which one do we put it on? Well. I mean, what do we present? Do we just present it here?
Objection.
No. I mean, it's not his balloon, I guess, to be fair, but where do you want me to present it, then? Oh, right here, probably, huh?
Objection.
No? What the fuck? What the fuck, then? Where? Where do I present it, then? Here? Doesn't really mean anything, does it? Where do you want me to show this damn photo? Which part? God damn it, dude. I'm gonna fucking fail for the first time. Man, I'm gonna fail just because I don't know where to fucking present this on. Like, do I put it here then?
Objection.
There's only so many statements, damn it. Yeah, shit, Jesus fucking Christ, dude.
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty.
Alright, do I present it here?
Objection.
Okay. Jesus fucking Christ. Unfortunately, the photograph Master Gotts took can't tell us the color of the balloon, but it can tell us something important, something crucially important. What? It shows the pictured balloon wasn't carrying any passengers. Ah, my goodness, you're right. But surely all the balloons would have been carrying passengers. There would be no sense otherwise. See, they are for pleasure, for seeing the views. My balloon's only flying with passengers. Which tells us that the pictured balloon isn't one of them. So when the incident occurred that day, there was a fourth balloon in the sky. The mysterious green balloon. I know nothing, niente. I can only tell you one thing. If this balloon was not carrying passengers, then it was not one of mine.
Objection!
There are illegal tradesmen everywhere you care to look. Clearly, one such entrepreneur decided to capitalize on the opportunity presented by the Great Exhibition, and managed to operate balloon flights on Loom's patch without him realizing. See, the competition. I did not notice because of the experimento that went on wrong on the stage. This fourth balloon exploded at the very same moment Mr. Asman was beamed from the stage below. Right. So them scraps that fell to the ground after and left them scorch marks, they didn't come from the stage at all, it was from bits of the balloon. Because no one was in it, it didn't get no attention. A mysterious fourth balloon carrying no passengers silently floating over the experimentation stage.
Objection!
This photograph shows us nothing more. A stray balloon carrying no one and operated by some rogue trader. Clearly it has nothing to do with the case. Its relevance does elude me. The court has seen sufficient evidence and heard ample testimony already. The prosecution calls for this trial to be concluded. Really? Have we really got to the truth yet? No, we can't let this opportunity slip away. What else can this tell us? There's more.
Objection.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, wait. Please don't give your decisions yet. The photograph from Master Gotts may well be hiding one more clue. What's this? A vital clue?
Objection!
We're well past the point of mere possibilities. It's time for definites now. So tell the court, what exactly does this alleged clue in the photograph prove? The cause of the explosion. We can reasonably assume the pictured balloon was destroyed in the searing heat of the explosion. That's right. Yeah, it was not my fault. Evidently. Because the birdcage from the kinesis machine materialized in the sky where it had been flying. And the balloon, being filled with flammable hydrogen, instantly and explosively ignited.
Objection!
No, that's not what happened. What?
It would appear this photograph requires closer examination. Counsel, you will highlight the location.
Of course, my lord. If you look closely, it's plain enough to see, and what's shown is linked to another piece of evidence. In a way, that leads to an unbelievable conclusion. I did end up being bamboozled about the use of that crossbow.
Take that!
The timing of this photograph can only be described as miraculous. If you look, you'll notice there's a bright white line that appears to point directly at the balloon. Most likely a ray of light incidentally caught on film.
I'm afraid I can see nothing of the sort.
If you look closely with a magnifying, it's not that hard to see, dude. It becomes clear what the nature of this bright line really is.
Goodness, what is that?
Undeniably some sort of flash, yes.
Oh golly, do you think it might be lightning?
But it couldn't have been a finer day. And the lightning, like, coming up like that? Weird.
I believe we may be looking at fire.
A bolt of fire heading straight for the balloon, like an arrow.
Indeed, even to my aging eyes, it would appear to be some sort of flame. My word, are you suggesting that this flame struck the hydrogen gas?
Objection!
That's absurd. The balloon would have been 60 feet above the ground at the time. No flame could possibly have reached such a height. Actually, in my opinion, there's a particular piece of evidence found at the scene that reveals how this exactly did happen. What evidence?
If such evidence exists, Counsel, for goodness sake, present it.
Finally.
Take that!
This was found hidden at the foot of a small ornamental tree near the scene.
Good lord, is that a crossbow?
An arrow dipped in oil and set alight could have been shot from this weapon, sending a flaming arrow straight into the hydrogen-filled balloon. Are you suggesting that crossbow was used to deliberately?
Blimey, you're right. That streak of light in the photo looks like an arrow. Then, the explosion of the balloon, it was...
very likely the result of a flaming arrow from this crossbow igniting the hydrogen.
No! Order, order. Counsel, this is an extraordinary supposition.
If the aim was to cause the balloon to explode, the shooter could have used a gun, of course. However, there's an obvious reason why that would have been out of the question. The noise of the discharge, of course. That's right. By using a crossbow, the projectile could be fired silently.
Well, yeah, if someone heard a gunshot go off at the exhibition grounds, it would have caused a real panic. But with the big explosion, there was a very big panic anyway, no?
I don't like this. I should be pleased to have found a plausible new explanation, but something feels wrong.
Objection!
Do you understand the implications of what you're saying, my Nipponese friend? If a flaming arrow did indeed hit the balloon, then obviously it would have exploded. And if the birdcage appeared from a cloud of smoke, that ensued.
What? Wait a minute. Are you really saying here? I don't get it. What? Was the birdcage beamed up into the sky after all, or what? My goodness me!
Ah, now I understand. That's what that sinking feeling is about. I think there's a good chance the birdcage was actually concealed inside the balloon all along.
What? Did I hear that correctly, Counsel?
There's no going back now. The horse has bolted. The cat is up, and the jig is officially out of the bag. Let's assume, as I said, that the birdcage was hidden inside the green balloon. On stage, when the experiment was started, the birdcage in the instantaneous kinesis machine disappeared in a cloud of smoke. At that moment, the flying arrow was fired from the ground, causing the green balloon to explode and drawing the attention of the spectators to the sky. And amid the smoke, the hidden birdcage then appeared to fall down and crash into the crystal tower. I think you'll all agree it's entirely plausible. that what I've just described is the real truth behind the miraculous experiment. Good grief.
Objection!
This is ludicrous. What you've described is no science experiment. It's child's play, a contemptible display of stage magic. Both Sholmes and Iris said the experiment was impossible, in which case this is the only way to explain what happened. And in any case, the victim's body was found inside the birdcage. If the instantaneous kinesis didn't take place, how do you explain that? If I may put in a word, as a man of magic myself, such apparent discrepancies can easily be explained by a simple deception. Juror 3. All that would be needed is a doppelganger, someone who looked very similar to the victim, Mr. Asman, and having this other man appear on stage to front the show as a body double. Yes, of course. So in fact, Mr. Asman must have been inside the birdcage that was concealed inside the balloon.
Objection!
That balloon would have been filled with hydrogen. Anything hidden inside it would have been scattered to the four winds when it exploded. No one would have ever embarked on such a risky venture. Not necessarily. The explosive force of the balloon gas could have depended upon the mixture ratio. Juror 4. Flying balloons are rarely filled with pure hydrogen, but a mixture of other gases, such as helium as well. Helium on its own doesn't explode, but by controlling the gas-mixture ratio, the explosive force can be altered. The mixture ratio? Obviously, the victim's body would have suffered some burns, that would be unavoidable. But not to such an extent as to render this whole obscene charade impossible. So everything that happened can be explained logically and scientifically. The explosion that engulfed the stage at the start of the experiment was no accident. It was all part of an elaborate deception to make it appear that instantaneous kinesis occurred. Well, goodness me. And if we accept that this is what happened, it means the victim, Mr. Asman, was never present on the public experimentation stage to begin with. In short, he couldn't have been killed by the defendant, who was on stage in full view the entire time. Ugh. This will be very hard for the prosecution to counter. Lord Von Zykes can't credibly maintain that Professor Harebrain is a suspect.
Mr. Naruhodo, I appreciate your efforts, thank you.
Professor.
But you can stop now. Just keep your mouth shut, please.
Sorry? What's all this about, Mr. Harebrain?
I, Albert Harebrain, hereby confess that it was me who stabbed Mr. Odie Asman.
What the fuck are you doing?
Yes, it was me, with my faithful friend and partner, Andrew the Screwdriver.
What? What are you doing? Order, order! Defendant, explain this sudden confession.
Objection.
Professor Harebrain, what are you talking about?
It's what I've said all along. I must protect my hypothesis and my precious machine. You stand there and claim it was all a trick, all an elaborate prank, but where's your proof? No, you have to examine the machine if you wanted to prove it, but then it would all be over. My beautiful hypothesis would be laid bare. I mean, the indignity of it.
It's clear that you drew the plans for the experiment, but you didn't actually build it. It's quite conceivable that you were duped.
Barak!
Yes.
I'll cooperate, I'll do whatever you say, I swear it. So, please, ensure the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act is adhered to and protect my creation.
Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hallowed chalice at this crucial juncture. Here's to my learned Nipponese friend.
What?
And his upcoming attempt to clarify the defense's position in light of the accused's confession. Do you intend to formally assert that the experiment was nothing more than a conjuring trick? Because the moment you do, the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act that protects the professor's invention will cease to apply. The prosecution will then demand a rigorous examination of the machinery involved in order to establish the truth. However, if you acknowledge that the machine is genuine and instrumental in the victim's murder, any chance of investigating will be crushed and the confidentiality of the professor's hypothesis preserved.
Well, counsel, what is the defense's official position?
What Professor Harebrain, my client, actually asked of me was to prove that the explosion was an accident and protect the secrecy. But there's no way to do that without implying the professor's guilt. Do I protect my client's life by asserting his innocence, or do I uphold my client's request but see him condemned? Either way, I can't avoid betraying his trust. You've been silent long enough. Isn't talking your trade, my learned friend? Or has all knowledge of English escaped your confused Nipponese mind? It's admittedly a hard question.
Mr. Naruhodo.
There's no escape here, I have to make a choice. But it's an impossible one, I have to give up on something. But what? The defense asserts that the defendant's instantaneous kinesis machine was in fact... This is admittedly a difficult ethical question to ask, but I stand by the fact that the professor's life is more important than his work is. No, I can't say it. My client placed his faith in me. I can't just let him down. What must I give up on is not the question you have to ask yourself here. It's, what can I protect? Hello again, Mr. Naruhodo. It's been far too long. Susato? But what are you— Hiya! Why, though? There'll be time to talk later. For now, we must concentrate on the task at hand, which is working out what I have to give up on, but what I can protect. Professor Harebrain.
Yes.
Yesterday you told me that science is the pursuit of truth. Well, my job is to pursue the truth too.
Yes, of course.
And personally, I believe that you didn't stab Mr. Asman. I think you've come to realize something yourself too, haven't you? That your experiment and the machine you built with the victim are questionable. The truth behind that is what we must both pursue now. So, you finally opened your eyes. What? And as for you, Albert, you can't ignore this any longer. Having heard my learned friend's assertion, don't you have something to say?
Barbaric.
Lord Van Zykes. Gosh, I've never heard him speak that way.
In truth, there is one thing, something I've remembered that's of relevance.
What?
On the day it happened, just before I began the experiment, I saw a man near the stage. A man holding that crossbow.
I beg your pardon? Professor, did the man have any distinguishing features? What did he look like?
Taller than me, and thinner than me, with straight hair, straighter and wider than mine. Let me see. One less lens than me, too. A monocle, a rather stylish black monocle. But one thing in particular will help to positively identify the man you see. I know him very well. After all, he's the engineer who built my invention. What?
He built the machine?
That's right. Mr. Asman introduced me to him a year ago. He's a man by the name of Enoch Drebber.
Enoch Drebber? Does this mean something, members of the jury? Not a name any scientist wishes to hear. The man's an abomination. Not a name any conjurer wishes to hear, either. Who on earth is he? I'm afraid this isn't the first tale of this nature that I've heard in scientific circles in connection with that name. There's talk of other flamboyant experiments that turn out to be nothing but stage trickery in the end. Obviously, the rascal is after the government's research grant money. When magicians are in need of money, I have heard them resorting to these underhanded tactics. Some acquaintances of mine, with experience of such things, have mentioned Enoch Drebber's name before. The man is both an engineer and a magician. Yes, we are dealing with an unparalleled confidence trickster here. That's Enoch Drebber for you. We're on the way, team.
So it's true then. My invention, my great machine, it was just a grand illusion.
Considering what we've just heard about Mr. Drebber's character, I'm sorry to say that sounds increasingly likely.
Even though no one else believed it, I wanted to. I wanted to believe that machine would function exactly as my hypothesis predicted.
Do you think Van Zykes was doing all of this just to try and get Harebrained to admit that he was wrong? Which is why you were so opposed to it being investigated, I presume. Well, but then why would you have reacted so dramatically if that was the case, I guess?
I knew that if the machine was examined in detail, its construction would give away my hypothesis. Obviously, I didn't want that to happen, but at the same time, I knew that if it was found to be nothing more than a trick, than a work of deception, then everything I'd worked towards, all my research, all my dreams, my whole life would be over. I was terrified at the prospect.
So you really had no idea then, did you? About the true nature of the machine that was built and the nature of Drebber?
I never questioned anything. I didn't want to question it.
It's entirely possible that Mr. Asman and Mr. Drebber were working together to use you as a means of fraudulently acquiring the research grant money.
When I announced my invention to the crowds that day, it was the finest moment of my career. I pulled all the levers and turned all the dials in exactly the way Drebber had described. When the smoke suddenly started billowing out, I panicked. I didn't know what was happening. But I really don't know how the whole illusion was made to work. I don't know anything more.
Let me confirm one final point with you, Professor. Do you now consent to the prosecution submitting the necessary paperwork to release your invention from the protection afforded by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act?
Yes, please go ahead. I'm very sorry.
It would appear that we shall have to suspend proceedings for the remainder of the day. Lord Van Zykes? My lord. The court has newly been made aware of another crucial party whose involvement is critical. Yes, Mr. Drebber. Gather information about the man, if possible. I should like him served with a subpoena. With pleasure, my lord. Now, counsel for the defense. Yes, my lord. When we reconvene, I shall be looking for one thing and one thing alone from you. Evidence that the defendant is innocent of the crime for which he presently stands accused. I understand. Good. In that case, this court is adjourned until tomorrow morning. We did it, team. We're on the way.
Mr. Naruhodo,
Ah, yes.
I'm so sorry. I was wrong, you were right. I tricked you, you trusted me, I dragged you into my mess. Oh, how did it ever come to this? I'm so sorry.
Did you really have no idea, Professor? About what Mr. Drugger was really up to, I mean? About from what he was really constructing?
Naturally. That machine was the embodiment of my hypothesis, of all my hopes and dreams. I had complete faith.
Alright, in that case, I won't say any more. Now, sadly, the murder accusation against you still stands, so I must do as much investigation as we can before the trial resumes.
Well, thank you for doing so much for me.
I'm so sorry for arriving late this morning, Mr. Naruhodo. Arriving late? Didn't you receive my postcard? I wanted to let you know when I'd arrive. Postcard? What postcard? I hid it from you, Runo, so it would be a surprise. Well, did it work? I was surprised, alright, especially when she threw me to the ground. Oh dear, I'm so sorry. I was just so happy to see you again that it sort of slipped out. I often accidentally throw people to the ground as well when I meet them. Maybe we could stick to more traditional displays of emotion. Susie's train was late into London Victoria this morning, you see, but we made the coachman really whip the horse's head hard so she didn't miss the whole trial. I was watching from the gallery for a while, but in the end, I'm afraid I couldn't contain myself. Well, I'm glad you didn't. Having you at my side in court gives me the strength I need to win. So I'm delighted to see you again, back in London. Just fuck already. Oh, you're too kind, Mr. Naruhodo. I'm delighted to be here. I hope I can continue to be of service to you. Of course. So what brought you back? Did Professor Mikotoba not protest? Let's save all that conversation for when we're back at home, shall we? You know, I've made one of my most special blends ever for the occasion. Oh, Iris, how wonderful. I can't wait. Susato-san was back in London. It's hard to describe how happy that made me feel at the time, but despite my elation, our tale was about to take yet another extraordinary turn. Naturally, things are never simple.